I'll leave you this little Bible tract. That's the phrase some children used to say to householders when their parents took them preaching on weekends during the 80s and 90s. Tracts were a kind of small trifold pamphlet built around a topic designed to catch people's attention. Now picture the following scene, common in many countries on weekends. A child between 7 and 10 years old, uncomfortably dressed in a suit jacket and tie, walking hand in hand with his mother in door-to-door preaching, while watching his neighborhood friends play soccer on the local field. It's also common to see boys and girls dressed formally, accompanying their families to conventions that last up to 3 days, where children are not allowed to run around playing in the hallways, or simply attending meetings with their parents twice a week that last between an hour and a half to 2 hours at the Kingdom Hall. Keep in mind that the content of both large conventions and congregation meetings is designed for adults, in adult language, and children are expected to sit still and pay attention. All of this may lead us to ask, what is life like for children who are Jehovah's Witnesses? Are they happy? What is the effect of growing up as a child raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Stay until the end, because we're going to answer all of these questions. Let's begin. In every family, children tend to have different tastes, temperaments, and personalities. Naturally, the same is true among Jehovah's Witnesses. If you're observant, at a Kingdom Hall meeting you'll find children who are completely silent, impossible to read, as if you can't decipher what they're thinking. Some clearly have their bodies in the Kingdom Hall, but their minds are in much wider and more interesting worlds. Others, eager to please their parents, struggle to pay attention, or at least to look like they are, to a meeting that wasn't designed for them. Some can't help nodding off, and others simply surrender to sleep. Still others spend the entire time drawing or doodling in their notebooks. And then there are those who look completely fed up. Their attitude screams, "Get me out of here." But the worst part fell on the children whose parents took very seriously the advice printed in the magazines. When these parents noticed their children were sleepy or distracted, they would take them to the back of the Kingdom Hall, usually to room B or to the restroom, to apply, in a very literal and not symbolic way, the famous rod of discipline mentioned in Proverbs 22 verse 15. I would genuinely like to know whether this very literal application of Proverbs 22 verse 15 was something limited to the 80s and 90s, or if it's still practiced today. Let me know in the comments. At this point, it becomes easy to understand why. In the United States, the Pew Research Center found in a 2008 study that only 37%, that is, only 1 out of every 3 children raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, remain so into adulthood. In other words, while Jehovah's Witnesses offer the public magazines, books, and videos that they claim will help people build happy family lives, their own real family lives often look very different from what they preach. But behind such a high number of departures, there is much more than just a childhood filled with meetings and other activities children attend out of obligation. Let's take a closer look. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, give it a like, share it with someone it might help, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also join the channel membership. That way you'll get access to special content where I can speak more openly about sensitive topics. Click the link in the description. And thank you to those who have already done so. Your support makes it possible to keep creating this content. Now, let's continue. Another well-known aspect of the childhood of many Jehovah's Witness children is that they don't celebrate birthdays or Christmas. Here, I think the main issue goes beyond the simple fact that a child may feel they're missing out on something. There's also the reality of placing the child in a position of standing apart while their classmates celebrate. Of course, parents will make an effort to explain to the child why they must remain separate from classmates who are celebrating something. In your opinion, do you think those explanations truly remove that feeling of being set apart, of sitting in a corner while everyone else is socializing? Now let's start adding factors together. Children who twice a week are bored out of their minds at adult religious meetings, week after week. Keep in mind that many witnesses, even while traveling on vacation, look for a place to attend meetings. Add to that the endless conventions, the days spent preaching, and staying apart during practically every school celebration. Do these kids develop positive feelings toward their parents' religion, or the exact opposite? Now let's talk about what happens when these children become teenagers. Let's take Natasha as an example, whose case was analyzed by Dr. Andrew Holden in a study published by Lancaster University, which you can download through the link I've left in the description. Natasha constantly argued with her mother because she did not want to participate in the religious activities of the congregation. But let's allow Natasha herself to describe the situation. Mom and I were at each other's throats endlessly, and it was a real hassle for my dad. He didn't want to get involved really. I remember one night when we were having tea, my mom and I were at it hammer and tongs, and he just picked up his plate and smashed it on the floor, and he yelled, "I've had enough of this." He'd got to the point where he didn't know what to do next. My mom was so intense about things, and he wasn't. She just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Jehovah's Witness parents who take everything intensely? Of course, that never happens. Surely we're talking about an exception to the rule. In other words, if the governing body wanted to be honest, they would replace the cover of their book, the one where they reveal the secret to having a happy family life, with this one instead. But the point I want to make is that this tense family environment often begins when children reach puberty and start being more explicit about their resistance to their parents' religious activities. And it becomes more complicated as other typical teenage issues begin to surface. Friends, studies, attraction to the opposite sex, or even to the same sex. In short, all those things that make puberty such a memorable stage in the relationship between parents and their children. Now let me tell you about one of the most delicate aspects of growing up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, something that is rarely taken into account. I'm referring to the lack of freedom young people who get baptized as Jehovah's Witnesses have to choose their own path in life once they grow up. Let me explain. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that between the ages of 10 and 12, children have sufficient reasoning ability to take the step of baptism. At first glance, someone might think, well, what's the big deal? It's just a religious ritual. Let them get baptized, and that's it. Unfortunately, among Jehovah's Witnesses, the rule is that nothing is ever that simple. The issue is that, for Jehovah's Witnesses, baptism is the theological equivalent of reaching legal adulthood. In other words, you become subject to rights and obligations. Let's imagine the following example. A boy gets baptized at age 12 as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so his parents will stop nagging him. Oh no, sorry. He gets baptized in response to the loving encouragement of his parents. Then at age 20, someone tells him about the Pastafarian religion, and he finds the arguments very convincing that the universe was created by the flying spaghetti monster. Yes, I know I'm being satirical. It's just to illustrate the point. Well, no one could really blame this young man. At 12, you don't know what you want. And at 20, you probably don't either. Now seriously, the point is that people change the way they think over time, especially from childhood to adulthood. That's only natural. Not only does your brain develop, but you also encounter new ideas and expand your understanding of the world. The problem is that if this young man becomes a Pastafarian or joins whatever religion you prefer, he would be expelled, or as they now say, removed from the congregation. And from there, several scenarios can unfold. If the young man or woman no longer lives with their parents, the parents will stop socializing with them simply because they've been removed from the congregation. No more Sundays watching football together. No more family Netflix movie nights. No more vacation trips as a family. From that moment on, they will only speak to them about strictly necessary family matters or to invite them back to meetings. That alone, losing normal social interaction with your parents, is sad. But in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses, things can always get worse. Suppose that in his new religious enthusiasm, the young man takes every opportunity to talk to his parents about his new Pastafarian faith. Exactly what newly converted witnesses do with their relatives, just in reverse. Except in this case, because he was baptized, he is considered an apostate. And at that point, his parents will not speak to him at all, except perhaps to ask for financial help when they grow old. And no, that's not a joke. It has happened. Apostates are a particular category of former witnesses to whom it is forbidden even to say hello. In the past, they would not greet any type of expelled person, but recently they changed their stance for reasons. How should we put it? Somewhat obscure. If you want to know what those reasons are, click on this link. But I hope the point is clear. Young witnesses face a certain kind of pressure. Not threats, of course, but pressure disguised as loving encouragement to get baptized at a very young age. The problem is that if they give in to that pressure and later, as adults, decide to change their beliefs, their sexual orientation, or pursue any life path that takes them outside Jehovah's Witnesses, they will be rejected by their parents, their family, and their community. So yes, young Jehovah's Witnesses are free to choose whatever kind of life they want when they grow up, as long as they are willing to pay the price of being rejected by their family and community. Is that real freedom? And if everything I've said so far hasn't convinced you how miserable life can become when you grow up in a Jehovah's Witness family, it's because you haven't yet considered that this religion also interferes in the academic choices of its members. But that's a topic for another video. Click the link in the top right corner if you'd like to explore that point in more depth. Bye.